With Erik Ten Hag expected to be announced as United's next manager, there have been reports that Cristiano Ronaldo is not in his plans. After 33 games this season, he scored 18 goals, top scorer at the club, 3 assists in that time too. But perhaps not good enough for what Ten Hag has planned for United and what's ahead. Craig, what are your thoughts on Cristiano Ronaldo not being in the potential new manager's new plans?
I don't think it's a big story, to be honest. He's not the future. He's been an absolutely terrific player. Stats will back it up, and again, he's got goals this season. But this club is so far off the pace. There is so much dead wood there in general, not suggesting him, but so a new manager's going to have to come in and almost start afresh. And look, it's Mother Nature. He's not the future, and they need to build for the future. And fast. So I wouldn't be surprised, because if he's not potentially in the long-term plans and you start having to leave him out, the reaction's not going to be great, and that can cause an even bigger problem for you as a manager and within the dressing room to have such a big star unhappy. So yeah, there's going to have to be a compromise reached. But this news does not surprise me. I think a new manager coming in there really has to get a hell of a big brush and sweep that place clean.
So if you do lose Ronaldo's goals, Nadim, and players like Pogba reported to be on their way out as well, who's coming in to make up for that?
I think it's a great question. I think, though, when we think about Ten Hag and the situation that he's coming into at Manchester United, as Craig's alluding to there, this brush, it needs to be sweeping. It might be sweeping for a very long time, because the fact is, it feels like Manchester United right now are more of a project as opposed to something that's even close to a finished article. I think at the start of this season, after they finished second last year, you're thinking with the additions of Sancho, Varane, Ronaldo, this is it. This was going to be the year where United were back. Everything was going to be great. It was going to be rosy. I think they were in the Champions League. Everything was going to be fantastic. But then they saw even more problems, and this year revealed exactly the situation that they're actually in. So for Ronaldo to essentially not be part of a long-term plan for United, I think that's fair. There's no one saying he's not a good player or not one of the greatest players of all time. But the fact is, he probably didn't sign up to a long-term project anyway, as was the case with, say, potentially one of the other two, because they thought this was going to be the year. So for me, he'll probably end up leaving with a big reputation in hand and go somewhere which needs somebody like him for that particular moment, and he'll be incredibly successful, because that's exactly what he does. And as for the goals going missing, I think we've seen this year that for United, scoring goals isn't essentially the only thing that's going to solve all their problems, because by all accounts, he's done his job, but they're still 6th or 7th in the league. So let's be clear, there is more to it than just the goals themselves. And I think for United, it's going to be a case of addressing some of those other problems first. And then with those goals, maybe they can find someone that will fill that. But hopefully that will be the final piece, because we've seen so far now that it's not even touching the sides when we think about that as a concept.
And those problems have been, as Nadim's mentioning, really well documented. But if you are having a clear out, why are you clearing out your top scorer?
Yeah, but if you're bringing in a new manager who's going to try and build something, for sure, they have to build a way of playing.
And from day one?
Well, if you're going to have a way of playing, then you have to start on day one to build that and implement it and tell everybody how it's going to happen. And if that includes having a guy who stands in the penalty box and puts the ball in the net, then you include Ronaldo. But that's not how Ten Hag plays. It's about movement. It's about everybody getting involved. And instead of looking at it in a negative light of, well, you're taking away your top scorer, how about the way you play and the way you build this team? You've got players like Sancho. Can you get Rashford back in line? You've got Bruno Fernandes. You've got young Elanga. So you've got a future to look forward to that doesn't include Ronaldo. And that's the bottom line. And the sooner you move Ronaldo, then the sooner you're going to reach your goals. Because if Ronaldo doesn't go and Ronaldo doesn't play, that's going to affect the rest of the club big time.
So, Craig, was it a bad move to bring Ronaldo?
Well, I think it was desperate in a sense, but this is a club that has just done things off the cuff. It was a club who said, or who intimated that they were going to be buying young and they weren't going to be going down a short-term route. And then they went out and brought Cavani in. Then they went out and brought Ronaldo in. These are all short-term signings. You mentioned about how you replace goals. You spend money, but you recruit well, which they haven't. They have the money. And it was interesting. Our colleague Mark Ogden a few months ago, three months ago, was on the show talking about he had been talking to Ed Woodward along with some other journalists, and Ed Woodward, when it was put to him, the recruitment and the spending had been poor, did not accept it and thought the recruitment had been pretty good. I mean, that's what you're dealing with. So the new manager has to come in, they have to recruit better. I mean, you've got to look at that back four to start with. Never mind Ronaldo. The goalkeeper has resurrected his career. He's been brilliant. But almost all of the back four, you'd be looking at getting rid of. I mean, OK, Rafael Varane, we know he's a quality player. We just haven't seen it this year. Maybe that's the people around him. And then you go forward. You know, Matic is done. McTominay's a worker. Pogba, I wouldn't have him near the place because I just think for the money, you just don't get enough. Sancho looks as if the pressure is too much for him so far. Rashford's lost form, and Ronaldo, he's nearer to 40 than he is to 30. I mean, I'm painting a picture here how big a job this is, but this is Man United's problem. They've sort of just had a carte blanche approach to buying players, and it hasn't worked for them. And this is going to be a big problem for the new manager. But the only surprise I have, Kay, is that people are surprised that Ronaldo might not be on the list for any new manager.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and of course, ESPN FC 7 days a week, subscribe to ESPN+.